Dust Jackets by Katy Madgwick. It was a pleasure to burn, or so the elders claimed, back when they had voices and stories and trod our paths before us. We nicknamed them Forgottens, and most of their stories have gone the same way. Most, but not all. Long years of darkness wound out behind us, the forgotten shadow of a road we travelled together. Now, varying degrees of night comprise a bleak palette of browns and greys, the sun a mere spectre of a long-dead deity, passed down as legend. The Forgottens knew the sensation of heat from the heavens searing their skin pink, and they worshipped at its altar. We remember. In memoriam. Now there's just Iris, Killen and me, the only ones spared by this relentless tyrant season. Spared or forgotten. We don't ask questions. The dust envelops us. We are half blind in its suffocating custody. And still we plough on. Stopping has always frightened Iris. Just the word, stop, with its round, clipped, bubble-burst suggestion of an ending, haunts her wise blue eyes. An ending to what? Our journey? Our lives? Iris never explains. Leader, mother, or simply the tallest among us, we've forgotten why we follow her. But we do. And she won't let us say the S-word, not ever. Let alone even think about trying it. So when it comes time to rest, we hover instead, commas instead of full stops, sharing out scraps of vile subsistence and divvying up the patchwork of tasks peculiar to the fabric of our lives, survival and everything that entails. We must have slept standing up. I can't recall a moment where I lay down, not fully. Maybe I rested my head on my own shoulder, my neck twisting so I could snuggle my cheek against something almost warm. I must have sat once, hunched over a fire, although I can't recall that either. Instead, my calves grow numb from crouching, always ready to run. Nowhere safe to stop, to pause. Time is elastic these days. Reams of the stuff thwart our progress. If only it wasn't so damn thick. Wading through time is worse than trekking up any hill. It's always there, viscous and unrelenting, sucking at your boots like some amorphous parasite. Not to mention the cold, of course. Rest invites a slow, creeping death, the clasping embrace of an insidious chill which threatens to possess you the second you let your guard down. So we face it head on, wrapping our bodies like we do our faces, warding off evil in all its guises. 3 mobile cocoons shuffling inexorably along some preordained path like supplicant pilgrims. How long until we circle back and repeat it all? Will anything change? Killen sees ghosts, he says. We stare blank as the night at him, searching long-dead memories for the meaning of the word, wondering how he knows it at his tender age. He means the dirt-gilded zombies who drift on unseen tangents drawn in the sand. They glide past in fossilized clusters, sometimes alone, not close enough to bother us, far enough to lack meaning to our vital band of 3. But Killen counts them compulsively. Iris and I try to forget the tallies he spouts daily. 16 on the south ridge, 12 to the west, almost 19 heading for the reach. Almost 19. He shrinks into himself then, a shiver imperceptible as gossamer rippling across his face. Such a young face, yet it's etched with dust-dug pits like the negative of Braille. Iris squeezes my hand sometimes when the storms pick up and riffle the surface of the earth, lifting sheets of dust like a theatre curtain. We might have seen the performance the remains of the planet had in store for us, were it not for the stinging gusts. Plumes of dust raised, orchestrated and delivered biting back into our faces. The crescendo comes at dusk, as whatever light filters in through so-called daylight hours gives up and slopes away, abandoning us to the gales of caustic particles. A guessing game of when and where and just how hard the next ones will land. Iris squeezes my hand and I squeeze back, chin on my chest, face swathed in cotton, spit dry on my lips and nothing but arid stiffness left on my rusted tongue. Swallowing is a leviathan undertaking. No precious drops will reach our cracked lips until after the storm is done. Unless we happen upon an upturned mountain to shelter behind. Human contact is hydration, fingers pulsing with the rare refreshment of it. Staying together is our single purpose. To allow any distance to creep between our bodies would mean surrendering to the sovereign dirt. Killen shielded behind, his head pressing into the small of my back as he reprises his role as the rear of a pantomime horse, for an audience of almost 19. Day breaks with a damp snap after that, and we slow a little, gathering our senses. Killen's busy scanning the east horizon for ghosts when he asks, "What is that?" We rub our eyes, questioning the evidence. Nudging through the layers of dust and gas that have strangled them all these long years, exhausted rays emerge. Is it a hallucination? Some collective dream? The sensation is something akin to divine reverie. Nirvana, the Forgottens called it, a state of higher being. Literally higher for Killen, his little legs dragging heavy steps up the nearest rise to the point closest to the heavens, as if in raising himself above us, he'll soak up the lion's share. I can't begrudge him this small victory, and witnessing anemic sunlight grace his pale forehead for the first time brings me to my knees. His smile so bright I fear for a moment it will scare the sun away, that seeing itself reflected in the almost transparent boy might send it scurrying back. None left for us poor wretches down at ground level. Time snaps like an elastic band released, and instead of decades passing daily, we count the precious, bejeweled seconds it takes for the rays to penetrate Killen's frail form and extend hope down to Iris and me. We lift our faces to welcome them, and they stroke our dirt-caked cheeks, and we laugh like we've been tickled. The sunlight seeps through, spoon-feeding us molten joy. The sun was mourned by the Forgottens like a lost relative, and her triumphant return exalts us. History loops back on itself as we connect to our ancestors, reclaiming what was lost to them. We are the chosen. We don't burn at first, despite our translucent complexions, rendered paper white through years of lack. Protection comes from the dust itself, moulded to our skin like a perfect pie crust, cracking when we smile. We smile rarely, and now the effort forces fault lines to fissure their way across our faces, seeking the path of least resistance. It hurts. I see Killen picking at his face, one giant scab that isn't ready to fall off yet. It's not that we never wash, we just never wash for long enough, always moving on our relentless quest. Plus, our dust jackets have their advantages, warding off frostbite, covering our scent. We peel away layers of our wrappings as the earth's surface heats. Flakes crumble away as piece by piece we reclaim ourselves from the dust. Virgin skin lies beneath, pure and naive, ready to lose its innocence to the divine being. Skeins of blood vessels thread beneath the surface, blooming in the heat, flowering red all over our exposed surfaces. Killen dances those first days, all spindly limbs crooking back and forth like a Halloween puppet, and how we laugh. We haven't stopped laughing since he first climbed that rise and we fell to our knees. Killen's jerky little body expresses everything we hope, but can't begin to put into words. Our faces speak to the future through residual dirt, startled white streaks and ugly blotches of sun damage. A topographical map of our meagre expectations, our undying faith, our eventual undoing. Days pass and the rays grow bolder, striking again and again at the dust clouds, finding their weaknesses. It is so beautiful it hurts. Shards of hot light fall to Earth's surface like a sheaf of arrows loosed from an avenging army. The dust gathers, safety in numbers, but the sun hunts it out and dismantles its dominion piece by piece. Our rapture soon gives way to prickling apprehension, which in turn mutates into hot, searing dread. Killen is the first to fall, his childish exuberance creeping up behind him to take its revenge. We carry him between us, drip-feeding him brackish liquid, all we have. Still we move. Any thought of not doing so has long since been eradicated. Movement written deep into the fibres of our limbs, as sure as the dust that coats our nostrils. The sun's triumphant return, a blaze of glory, is no reason to slow down. Quite the contrary. Petrified of stasis, we pay little heed to circadian rhythms. Time slumbers in the dark, taking the sun down with it, so we make tracks at night, stealing like nocturnal prey, gaining precious distance while our crisp faces gulp at the cool midnight air, rejuvenating. Then one morning, the minutest sliver of colour unfolds above us, unpicking the stitches that hold together the last shreds of the dust blanket. This must be what the Forgottens called blue. The sight of it shatters us. Killen falls again and rolls onto his back, gazing slack-jawed up at the sky as the rift of supernatural splendour stretches and distorts. "No, Killen, come on," Iris rasps, pleading, dragging Killen by the wrist so his body leaves an undulating curve mark behind it in the dirt, a sand snake winding its way to shelter. But her eyes too are drawn skyward, and now we travel gazing up, seeking out that bleeding blue. It radiates west, a chasm of electric brightness luring us along with it, until finally it shows us what was hidden from view under the dust. A city. It stands sentinel on the cusp of the dirt plains, smaller buildings bowing towards taller scrapers behind. Here is hope. Here is a goal. I don't dare breathe the notion to Iris as she forges ahead, her slender shoulders pulled back, would-be fine blonde hair dreadlocked into submission by the dust. I watch distracted as it cascades down her back like a treacle waterfall. She'll only want to pass through, maybe even go around. We've skirted settlements for the best part of a year after what happened in Gresham. Why would we want to change course again? Who knows what lies in wait? But she doesn't veer away as we expect. Killen and I dog her heels, unquestioning, and the cardboard cut-out horizon paves our way with lengthening shadows, a splaying grey crown of possibility. We dip our toes towards its shores, hesitant but needy. It's okay, says Iris. The emerging sun lit a fire in her eyes, and it hasn't left them since, even though they water from the glare. She swells in its punishing glow like a ripening fruit. We can... Her lips tremble as she unsticks them, and tears spill from her bloodshot eyes. She winces as they meander down the cracks in her brittle skin. It has to be her. It can only be Iris who speaks the word we have cold-shouldered for so long. The city. If we can reach it, we can... stop. The word punctures the dusk, and what rushes through the hole it creates is all the bad juju, all the tension we've hauled along our path like dead weight. Sucked through the vacuum, Iris pops in the choking bubble of our existence. Killen's face steals the sun's fierce glow and beams it around on us, his feeble body rousing itself once more into motion. A brown-toothed keyboard grin embarks up his cheeks. If he can do it, so can we. The dust clouds coalesce into frightened herds, and instead of driving them on, their long-time conspirator, the wind, harries them out of the way, herding them and penning them back. The way clears. The city ripples in the near far, a mirage of potential, shimmering square and not square in the dying light. We'll walk through the night once more. Killen pushes back at his scabs, trying to make them part of him again. Iris and I scrape at the ground, desperate to claw back the protective coating to save from burning to the bone. But the dust turns its back on us now, adhering to the earth, hardened to our plight. Too long we cursed it. Now, too late, we lament its demise. Worse still, it takes the water with it, our canteens drying up as the dying dust sucks greedily at the dregs. It becomes a cruel game of calculations and misjudgments. How fast can we go without becoming dehydrated? How much liquid do we need to get us to the next rise? Our skin blisters as, heat-addled and sun-blind, we fumble through the brilliance. Bargaining with time, the omnipresent substance of our nightmares, its Cheshire cat grin shining through the darkness now, watching impassive as we stumble on, seeking shade and anything with a payload of liquid we can tap. Scant opportunity. Iris? Killen drops behind and my heart skips up its lethargic pace to a staccato beat. Not again. But if not him, I know it will be me. The numbness asks questions of my toes, my swollen ankles. Knees wobble with indecision. Once they decide, I won't get up again. The sun dries up the filthy puddles and arid desert catches fire, spreading across the plains like plague. Simple movement is no longer enough. We have to run. The faster we go, the closer the settlement grows, tantalising us with a prospect that has grown its own legs since Iris dared to utter it. The words spoken aloud shape our thoughts, govern our movements, put music into every step. If we reach the city, we can stop. We can stop. We can stop. We're a freight train, unrelenting in our progress. The blue draws my eyes upwards, the city draws my body forwards. I don't know if I sleep. The thoughts that possess my waking moments comprise my whole existence. Panic, falling upwards, driving my legs to move forward. Left, right, left, right. If we reach the city, we can stop. We can stop. We can stop. Iris falls. We're so close. I can almost feel the cold concrete under my dry palms. But she joins the ranks of Killen's ghosts, and I pull him by the wrist, grief a luxury neither of us can afford. Her words ring through the blue as clear as if she was still running with us. If we reach the city, we can stop. We can stop. We can... When we reach the city.